I'm going to ask you about like your like social anxiety or anything. Because you mentioned you're an introvert and I'm an introvert as well.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
But I'm also that too.
Do you know what your Myers-Briggs is?
No.
Oh, I'm going to send you the 16 personalities.
Tell me.
It's the gospel.
What is it about?
So it doesn't put you in a box. So it did help me. It's a psych thing. It does help you understand your personality traits. And like for me, I didn't realize how introverted I was, or when Georgina would walk into a room and she liked to go off to the side and just kind of observe the room and see what was going on.
That's me. Yeah. Professional
Georgina with a mission will walk straight into the room, greet every individual person. So there's like two personas.
Oh, I know. So when I was reading your letter that you sent me, I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned your alter ego and like doing that stuff. And I find that like fascinating because it's something I've come across people do that when they want to like change a little bit. Like maybe they don't feel entirely comfortable being like that. Or like, for example, like Beyonce does like Sasha Fierce.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend actually, when he does his music, he goes under by a different like name. Mm-hmm. And he kind of says that that's like a little bit more of his alter ego.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I don't have a name for the alter ego. It's just, I know when it's the diva alter ego is kicked in. My friend always says like, oh, you got your Disney voice on.
Your Disney voice.
So it's like the professional voice that comes in, the voiceover, and like literally it's the publicist that comes out.
So when did you start noticing that happened?
I really did not pay attention to that until honestly, probably in 2013 when I started understanding what my personality type was. Like I said, I'm naturally an introverted extrovert. So I will go above and beyond for work, or for anyone else. But when it comes to myself, I just had in my little bubble.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot.
But yeah, I'll, for work, I'll step in. I'm a spokesperson, or, I'm presenting in a room of 200 individuals who are court mandated to be there and engage everyone there. But one time I was doing a writing class at UCLA Extension, 16 people. We had to talk about our project. No problem. 2 minutes synopsis. Great. I got this. Going around the room. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Everybody was going around and I'm getting anxious. And literally I'm looking at myself, what is happening to me? And when he got to me, my professor, so tell me about you. And as I started with the words, I'm like fumbling my words. Like, yeah. And then I just start crying.
Oh no.
I started crying and I literally blurred out, oh crap. And this 2-minute discussion ends up being a 15-minute discussion about my project and where I was going, and people were chiming in, and I just could not wait for the break time to come in so I can run out. And I literally bolted to the door, ran into the restroom, just sat in the stall like, what happened? And I even told myself, I'm going back in the room. No one's going to know what happened. And as soon as I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm cool. And then it's like a girl comes up across the way. I just want to come give you a hug. I'm like,
aww. Okay. It's nice when people are aware and like mindful of like what other people are going through or might be going through. When I went to that mixer that you guys hosted and we all had to like say like who we were.
Yeah.
I have like major social anxiety in a room where I don't even know half of you. Like, so when I got up, I was like, my name's Alexis. I want to cry.
You did fabulous. Give yourself that credit.
But anyway, so let's go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce what you do, like what you're about.
Oh my gosh. So my name is Georgina Avilez. I'm a local Southern California. I was born and raised here, first generation. My family's from Mexico. I currently work for a nonprofit organization. There's no M.A.D.D by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I'm a program director. Prior to that, I worked in the entertainment business and PR and marketing. I worked on many interesting special events. I can't forget, so many unforgettable moments. I working on special projects creatively because I have to do something creative.
What does that mean, non-special projects?
Well, for me, it was something that I had no idea I was creating, to be honest. I always had to have a niche and do something creative. Even when I worked in the entertainment industry, I learned graphics on my own. I had a publisher. The publisher of the magazine literally said, well, I actually said too much and like, these layouts look a little lame. And so the editor's like, all right, hotshot, you think you could do it? I'm like, yeah. And so I sat there one night just sitting there and the publisher's like, what are you still doing here? It's like, I opened my big mouth. I got to do this now. And then he taught me how to break down a program. And then ever since then, I was able to train myself in doing graphics and doing, not professionally, but I was able to do it the G way.
Yeah, that's so cool. Let's start a little bit with like your background in PR and like your entertainment business experience. Like, how did you get started with that?
So part of me always yearned to be in the entertainment industry since I can remember. Since I was a little girl, I used to be fascinated with that world. Yeah, there was a time I wanted to be an actress. There was a time I wanted to own my own business empire, entertainment empire. But I had no one around me to really kind of nurture what that was. My parents, I get their work ethic from them. I also wish they nurtured that creative side, but they were such hard workers that I'll take it. Yeah. Because that was honestly also part of my secret of my success too.
I'm sure. And it teaches you good habits, at least in the workplace.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Sometimes it's like, I have to slow down.
So you initially wanted to be an actress.
Yeah.
Around what age?
That was like that 10-year-old, it was like I was there smiling out the window for the moon and stars. And, and I had people ridicule me like, you're fascinating. Your fantasies are crazy. And
yeah.
So, of course, I was always discouraged.
Also, I feel like I don't know about you, but being like in a Latino family or in just like in the culture, there's a lot of haters. Like, and even if it's like jokingly, it's still like hate that you remember.
Oh, yeah. Estás loca.
Yeah.
You need a job that's going to pay this. Like, okay.
Yeah. By any chance, so the Ultimate Revenge video you showed me.
Yeah.
Was that still around the time that you wanted to be in the entertainment business, or you were in it?
I was already in it. So how I got started in the entertainment industry was my special someone back then, my Mr. Wonderful. I was getting frustrated, like, okay, I want to break in. I was going to school. I'm just trying to figure things out. And he was just Mr. Positive, like, had this energy about him, like, okay, well, let's make it happen. And so one time we're in the music store. He opened up this magazine. He's like, this magazine is you. This is like, Latino culture, arts, entertainment. Call them up. Try to get a job. I'm like, are you nuts? People don't do that. Like, and he literally pointed me to the phone. Call them. Like, oh, okay. I called him. I'm not kidding. They're like, well, we happen to be looking for an assistant. I BS my way through that, and I got the job.
Oh, wow. And did you have any experience?
I had customer service skills since I was 16, and that's what I sold myself on. And I was willing to work. I think I said I could do jumping jacks upside down or something, and they were all about it.
Yeah.
And so next thing you know, I'm working for this Latino entertainment magazine that was bilingual, and life was not the same.
And then you got your toes in.
Got the toes in, got the hands, got everything in. And so yeah, from that Ultimate Revenge piece, that was a few years in where...
Yeah, so just explain the Ultimate Revenge piece.
So mom and dad, of course, they always want the best for their children. And, in my household, it's more you're taught how to have a family, have a husband, have, X, Y, and Z. I was a complete opposite. I did have that marriage proposal young. I was like, oh my God, this is it. But no, it didn't happen. And he dumped me. So that fantasy never happened. And of course, I'm learning about myself and trying to understand. And so there was a big loss that, we'll talk about soon. And so when the ultimate revenge piece happened, my mom and dad would just always hound me about, when are you getting married? When are you going to settle down? And literally, I even I adopted a dog for my dad. You want a grandchild? Here you go. Her name is Lucy. And so, I was perusing the internet, and I was upset with them. You want to get back at somebody? Yeah, I do. Do you want to? Yeah. And then I just put it away. Forgot about it. A month later, I get the call. Let's meet up.
What year would you say this was around? If you can remember.
2003.
2003.
Yeah, okay. 2003. So, so I met with the producers. We sat down, pulled the biggest prank ever on my parents. That was hosted by a yet unknown Ryan Seacrest. A month later, American Idol debuted.
And so what happened in the Ultimate Revenge episode?
What didn't happen? Honestly, I would say my mom flipped the script on me because I anticipated her to be the authoritative one, as she usually is, because she wears the pants in the family. Mm-hmm. I expected my dad to be the joking one, but no, he was the serious one out of everybody, just kind of staring,
observing.
Oh my gosh,
the maniac that was going to engage and propose to you.
And yes, I introduced my parents to a man who was older than my father, bipolar, and in the mob, and who was, he was insane, throwing glasses, throwing phones, having a fit. Barely could probably get my name right in the scene, but he pulled out a ring. He proposes. I turn around and look at my mom, who I could see a little bit of reservation, and only because she just met him at this moment. Go ahead, say yes, put it on. I wasn't lying. She wanted me out of the house.
Just to marry anybody, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm sure also because she saw maybe he was financially
secured. Yeah. Businessman secured. Yeah. So, she saw that. Yeah. And so my daughter will be well taken care of, but
he might be crazy, but
yeah, exactly. She figures, one time my mom told me, Mia, I can say you have bigger balls than me. I was like, whoa, that's a compliment.
Why did she say that to you in that time?
I think for her, because I had the guts. I went for it. Nothing stopped me, even though I might have been felt a little insecure or just maybe lacked some confidence. I just kept going. I didn't stop. And that was I would say part of my work ethic too, where it's just, you learn, you don't stop until you learn, until you get it right. You practice. And, even as I've evolved through the years, that's where I've come.
Have you thought as to maybe why when you were younger, you just didn't have the confidence? Some people just naturally have confidence. Why do you think that you needed to work on that?
Oh, I think a lot too. One, my parents, they did work a lot. And eventually, through time, it did take a toll on them. My sister was older than me. We're 9.5 years apart. So she was more of a mother figure. She took care of me. My friends, they're a little bit of haters. Or it's just the expectation. So I was always the quiet one out of the group because, naturally, I was very introverted, and I didn't realize. I would dress up like Madonna, wearing the bracelets there, but I'd be quiet and shy in the corner.
That's me. I was always really quiet as a kid.
Yeah. But I also had these big bottle cap glasses. And so it's I felt like such an ugly duckling. And
I felt like that too. Yeah. Honestly, I was always trying to just hide. I had these bangs that just covered my eye.
I had those and I cut them too.
And I was always wearing long sleeves because I was so insecure of my hairy arms and stuff. Yeah. And so I always wore long sleeves, and it was bad.
But I was also insecure. I had a unibrow and my mom wouldn't let me pluck it.
But at least you have eyebrows.
Yes, these are mine.
Everyone's dying for eyebrows now.
Yes. One time my little sister goes, "So what do you use on your eyes?" I'm like, "They're mine."
Natural. Okay. So let's start. Let's start with your story.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about Mr. Wonderful?
Mr.
Or did you
Wonderful.
want to like work your way into that?
No, I mean, I think that really sets the tone to what's to come next, to be honest, because there's one thing about when I got started, but that story also began with, because I was always Jennifer Lopez. She's like a hopeless romantic.
Oh, I love that about her.
Yes.
Everyone hates it for
Everybody hates on love.
That's
I love
true.
love.
True.
I've always loved love.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I was the one that dreamt of her prince. I was the one that fantasized about true love. I just, I did. I imagined the wedding. But there was other things that, of course, that I didn't imagine that would come ahead. Of course, you have your first love, your first boyfriend. And that was like high school, from 16 to 18. And then I had connected with someone else afterwards. After the first one dumped me, I had connected with someone else, and who was a bit older than me. Well, 10 years, but and so I had to grow up fast, but I learned in that relationship I tried to save him. Like, I loved him. I was not in love, but like there was love. Like I wanted to save him. But he had issues. And so people didn't like him. People around me didn't like him. The person I worked with,
your friends and family. And
stuff? They weren't a fan of him. And so my coworker at the time, after like him and me and the other one separated, he's like, "I got someone for you." I'm like, "What the heck are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have someone for you." I'm like, "No, not doing this. But then I sat back. You know what? What do you have to lose? Go for it. I kind of went in like,
You seems like you're also like a risk taker.
Yeah, I was at the time, but then there was a time when that kind of pulled back, believe it or not, in that department.
Okay.
So,
not in a bad way, but just
yeah.
Clear.
No. But so I just kind of, because they were hounding me, I was like, all right, he's playing Cupid. All right, let's do it. And honestly, when he first called me up and he called me ma'am, I'm like, what the heck? But he was he had been in the military. He was a Marine. He was part of the air unit. He was getting his bachelor's. He had aspirations to be in law enforcement and honestly worked for a government agency. And he loved poetry. And that's where he got me.
Oh.
And so after talking for about a month on the phone, and we finally met, and it was just like that perfect romantic comedy moment. Me trying to get out of my car, seatbelt was on, so I fell back. And he was just wonderful.
Oh,
he was just wonderful. So, now I'm just like, this man who, like I just shared about, he was the reason I got into the business. Like he's the one, no, make that phone call.
Yeah.
Get out there. And
he believed in you.
He believed in me.
Yeah.
He's like, you want this? Let's help make it happen for you.
Yeah.
And it was just so great to be with somebody who made you feel protected too at the same time, which is very rare. And so here we are a few months. And when I got that position, I happened to be up north and for an event. He was going to go visit his family. And that's when we really confessed how we felt. Like, I love you. Oh my God, I love you too. And he had sent me chocolate covered strawberries. He knew how much I love strawberries. And then, but he wanted to stay. And I was like, no, go visit your dad. Go visit your dad. I don't want to be that girl. I'll see you when you get back. Mm-hmm. And took me 45 minutes to convince him. And so when when I came back,
because he wanted to stay
to see me,
wait for you.
Yeah. And when I got back, and I'll be honest, I'm like, yes, I won. But when I got back, I didn't hear from him. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe he got back late from dad. And then another day rolled by, and I'm like, why isn't he calling me? But I had a fear to call him. I didn't want to call because I was like, well, maybe something changed. And then by the next morning, I'm like, call him. And then his sister answered the phone, which changed everything right there. And he was visiting his family at a family party, and he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, where he actually, some guys tried to crash the party. They pulled out guns. He jumped in front of a bullet to save his cousin and baby.
No.
And he was gone.
I'm so sorry to hear that. That's so like he's a hero for that.
Yes, he was. He definitely was. I will say the Neanderthal version of me back then blamed herself for his death because I convinced him to take that trip. And I would say from that moment, that's when everything changed. And so I would select relationships now that I knew weren't going to go anywhere. I protected my heart. I didn't get
like self-sabotaging.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Big time self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
And so even I went back with the ex but this time things were different because I was different. I was not connecting emotionally with no one ever. And I had even partners through the years where they would tell me, I can't read you. And
like you were probably cold.
I was. Yeah. And honestly, those are habits I'm still trying to get out in these recent years too. And so that's where like a lot of my escape was. And as I continued working in the entertainment industry, I just kind of drowned myself in that. I drowned myself in work. I never got emotionally attached to anybody. And I worked hard.
And I'm sure even in that industry, like everyone has their own mental health issues.
Oh,
like,
we didn't talk about mental health back then.
Exactly.
We didn't talk. It was not cool. And my best friend at the time, rest her soul, she was always she had this confidence that just radiated everywhere. And she was the type, don't cry. Don't. So of course I held it in. And
Isn't it the ugliest feeling when you hold your cries in?
You know what? I didn't realize how bad it was back then. I just like acknowledged it. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
You just gulped.
I was just like, okay. And obviously we didn't talk about our feelings with our parents because that's not what we were taught. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And so I never had these conversations with them. So they didn't, at that time, I didn't introduce them. It was about to be introduced that okay. So I was able to protect that bubble of that secret now.
Right.
And I suppressed his memory. So crazy plot twist I'll share with you. So when I went back with the other one, the one from before, and then crazy enough that him and we had a fallout, and then years later we made our peace. And there was a moment of, we were talking again, we were going out, but I knew my mom would not accept him. Mm-hmm. That was the one person I knew. And honestly, this was like 5 years ago.
Okay.
And
she's also the woman that wanted you to
but
be
him
engaged.
But him, he was the one that was no.
Okay.
He was off.
At least she had boundaries.
Yeah. But there's so much to that story, but that's another book. And so, the one moment I'm like, he's in my thoughts. I'm on a ride along with law enforcement, and he's in my thoughts. And then it happened to be the anniversary of Mr. Wonderful's passing. And then so when this one, the next morning I get a call that he's gone, and he passed away on the same day to the hour.
What? That's like unreal.
Oh, trust me. Yeah.
That is, oh my God. So how did you react to knowing that the memory you had suppressed, and then in present, like somebody else just passed? So years back, and I would say this was probably it's about 10 years ago, where I'll be honest, I had an emotional breakdown. Everything just caught up to me. I was used to protecting everybody around me, my family, and I had somebody broke in my house, and I felt like it was the one moment I couldn't protect my family. And that caught up to me, and it just took me down to a very dark hole. Luckily, I snapped out of it, and I got help that I needed. I didn't even confess to my friends what was happening. So nobody knew that you had gotten robbed, or? No, they knew I got robbed, but they didn't know about the breakdown. Oh, okay. And so I just indicated, I need you guys to watch over me. I still didn't tell them what happened. Again, so we didn't talk about our feelings. Yeah. So nobody had witnessed your breakdown. No. Mm-mm. It was just, I was able to close myself up. Oh, wow. Lock the doors. And nobody knew. And that was it until I would say like 36 hours later, when I looked in the mirror, it's like, that's not me. I don't recognize her no more. You need to get help. And I got the help that I needed.
And I had to work on myself. That was my responsibility, my accountability to get myself to be where I am. Right. And I wasn't going to share the story. I was going to keep everything private there's what's called is a letter to Mr. Wonderful, which is the letter that you read.
Right.
And so I would actually write these letters to these partners that I would have. And that's how I confessed how I felt. But they were letters never seen.
Right.
There's been a few a little bit dark, others a little bit cute and friendly. But I decided I'm going to write one last letter. So that way it kind of encompasses all of them and kind of understand. And it's a bit lyrical. And even when I put it together, I was like, oh, nobody's going to understand what it means. I guess I got to write an intro. Then I was like, I guess I got to share what happened.
Right.
But at that same time, and I was dating somebody who had dealt with issues as well, where he had 2 siblings that passed away and he would always run. So he was doing what I was doing. So in this case, it's like, oh, this is not a good match because that wouldn't have helped me.
Right.
And then I found out my friend's daughter was marrying my past. Literally, she had her boyfriend that passed away, and I wanted to now get my letter in her hand. And kind of like, and it was a moment that, she tried to commit suicide. She tried to do this. She tried to do that. And I literally everybody was like, she says nobody knows how she feels. And at that moment, I'm like, I do. And now I wanted to get my letter into her hand. But now it's like, I need to do a focus group and see what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
And so I emailed it to a few friends and I shocked the hell out of them because they had no idea what happened. And then I finally got the letter into her hands. And then next thing you know, her and I are communicating that she's moving on.
Yeah. So what kind of, before your mental breakdown, it takes time to like build up to that, right?
Yeah.
So minus all your trauma that had happened, were you going through like any like substance abuse, or were you going through any like things that you were using that were unhealthy to cope with?
Yeah. I was the life of the party. So in order to have that party, yeah, I'd have multiple drinks, I would make sure, but I kept everybody safe. That's the one thing I was advocating on even back then.
Right.
That I did. You look for other things to kind of like suppress the feeling of what's happening. Now I had suppressed it so much, but it also reflected in everything else. And the depression was real. Like it was real. And it was like tunnel vision at like towards the last few years of it. Like it was just, it's so hard to explain and put it into words, but right. I was in a very dark place. And the one thing my mom did pick up on that. My mom did see it. And I know she was kind of going around trying to help me. But eventually I had to kind of go through those steps so I can make that choice to get myself out.
Would you ever admit, I think this is also hard for just parents to admit that maybe their kid's depressed. Would you admit to your parents that you were depressed?
I think I said it once and my mom said, "Estás loca. ¿Quieres comer?" Just
like invalidating. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Mom, okay, bye. But she did watch me from behind because she did confide in one of my dear friends, one of my best friends, where she, I need you to watch her. And my friend told me years later that she said that. And I was like, okay, she got it.
Yeah. Damn, that's tough. I know. So did you end up did you go to therapy or
yes.
like what were the steps you took to be like proactive on just like finding your way out?
So you're going to laugh on a couple of them. A lot of it is, when you go to the doctor, I was 70 pounds heavier from what you see me right now. So like the weight was, and so I was in unhealthy steps. So I had to get a full physical. I had to go to therapy. And again, I still wasn't sharing so much around with my circle. And then like for me getting fit is just kind of walking. And then I was fascinated with 50 Shades of Grey. So I started listening to the audiobooks in my walks.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking forward to those walks on a daily basis.
That's actually really good advice to somebody that like should just like,
Oh, I had fun with those books. They were entertaining.
Yeah.
And opened up a whole new world.
Is that was that like a tool that like your therapist told you to do, or you just kind of did it on your own?
I knew I needed to get healthy because a lot of it too was like, I had retained all this extra weight. I had to take those extra steps because it was my lifestyle was unhealthy. So I went walking. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? And I'll be honest. So during that time is when my director actually saw my letter. And when she got it, now my director is like my mentor.
Job?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when she saw it, she's like, I read your letter. And I'm like, oh crap. She's like, I wanted more. I'm like, what are you talking about? I just put my heart and soul in that letter. Like, she goes, no, you hid it so well from us so many years. We had no idea. Oh, okay. So what are you talking about? I want a book. What? Are you high? Like, are you high? She goes, no. I'm serious. Oh, okay. How am I going to do that? Like, I had no idea. And so I was starting to get researching, like, what's in about books right now? What happened to be 50 Shades at that moment.
Right.
And so I'm like, why are they making it into a movie? I guess I need to listen to it. That'll be, okay. I found the audiobooks. That would be my walking buddy, Christian Grey.
How does it feel right now that you're sharing this story? Like, do you ever still like, obviously I know you probably still get emotional about it, but like, how do you feel overall?
It's always going to be a part of your heart after all these years, especially, him. And even when you hear a song or a memory, because, I am writing still that book. And it's still writing itself, again, there's been so many twists and turns in the in-between since. No, it's these moments that I feel like it needs to be shared. People need to hear this, be able to relate. I was able to inspire someone to help them. And I want to be able to share with others and, let them know, look where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And what's to come ahead next.
Yeah. I think, and that's another reason why I try to get all these stories from people. I want people to inspire other people because I feel like there's a lot of people that are sad. There's a lot of people that are going through it.
Yeah.
A lot of people that, they need to hear that maybe someone else is going through something similar and has a similar story. And, the people that got their way out of it. And I like to hear inspiring stories because also it helps me too.
Oh, good. Yeah. And it's kind of like what we're doing with the mixers. Again, we want to be able to elevate people, elevate their voices and get everyone together and be part of a community. I think right now too, we have that advantage with social media. It's a great tool.
Right.
I think if we had it back then too, there could have been so much great work that could have been done. And, again, some things can have gone awry.
Right.
But I think that's an important element that sometimes that it can, it's a curse and a blessing.
Right. Before we get into the mixers, because that's something I want to talk about, can you share how you got started in your organization?
So thanks to my best friend, Liz, it was so funny. I was kind of in between because when it came down to the end of the entertainment industry, like I had it. I was done. Mm-hmm. I was done. I was not happy. I didn't feel like I had purpose. Even people said, you are not yourself. And that's when I knew. And again, it was still, people didn't know even that was an escape from my reality. And so I needed a job. I had a house. I need to pay a mortgage. I need a job. And so my friend called me up and she's like, hey, they're looking for somebody here at temp and at M.A.D. And, oh, okay. Well, M.A.D.? All right. Yeah. Walked in through the door and I kind of did things backwards where I went through a staffing agency but the staffing agency hadn't even done my background check and they just sent me over. Okay, we'll take you. Okay, and then I had to go do the background check. And honestly, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be here 6 months. Because it was a culture shock. I was like, oh, what am I doing here? This is not me. But honestly, it was the best thing in my life.
And so were you using that job as like leverage to get out of the entertainment industry or just you were looking for something else?
I was looking for, I I can't say I was looking for something else. I didn't know what I wanted.
Okay.
I didn't have purpose. I was lost at that time. I really was. And so I saw it as income.
Okay.
I saw it as income. And it wasn't until like a year and a half later where my director now came into the picture, and that changed my world.
When you first told me that you were working for the organization, do people commonly have like misconceptions about you?
Oh my God, yeah.
I was just like imagining like all the people that work there might have a traumatizing story or something.
So we do have, because it's, when you hear mothers against drunk driving, you think it's a bunch of moms.
Right.
You think also a bunch of moms with picket signs telling you not to drink.
Yeah.
That's not the case. The mission is to end drunk driving, help fight drunk driving, support the victims of the violent crimes, and prevent underage drinking.
Right.
And so we pretty much assist families who are a victim and don't have a voice, and we're there to assist them through the court process of it. And then my job is to help change their pain to purpose and have them become storytellers in the community and share it with the media, share it at special events. And so yeah, there is a misconception of what M.A.D.D is. And so whenever they see me, they're like, oh, it's like,
do people assume you're a mom?
Yeah. Or like, oh, what's your cause connection? Did you lose?
So people commonly think like maybe you lost somebody to drunk driving or.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that I didn't understand when I first started. And as I went on, I correlated. Now it's like, I knew people who made that fatal choice. So it's like, oh, I do have a cause connection.
Yeah, you do.
Because 2 and 3 people are impacted. We all know somebody who's been impacted. Right. And it's one of the most recognized organizations out there, but it's still at the bottom when funding, because unless you've been impacted, you're not going to get involved.
That's true. That is true. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that have had DUIs, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but when I was younger, drunk driving wasn't as like frowned upon.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I feel like terrible for saying that.
No, you're right though. People, it was, and again, we also didn't have that social awareness back then.
And it was just like a different time. To be honest, I did it maybe like once or twice as an adult. And I just remember feeling so guilty and nothing happened. I just remember feeling so grateful that like nothing happened, that I didn't hurt anybody. But yeah, still to this day, I'm like, no, like I'm not going to be that person that hurts somebody. Because I think that's also what happens. Hurt people. Mm-hmm. So some people are spiraling and they're drunk and leaving intoxicated and not caring about other people because they don't even care about themselves. Yeah.
Well, at that point, they have no sense. Right. And so it's, we have to work close as a community to, be able to speak up. And honestly, like if we see someone who's impaired, like, grab the keys. They may hate you at that moment, but they'll thank you at the end. But, it's 100% preventable. We have ride shares, these days. We didn't have it back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's another thing, that we didn't have cell phones that you can hit an app, to ensure your safety of getting home, or making that phone call to someone to pick you up. Right. And, we didn't have that back then. And so it's crazy that even during the pandemic, the number shot up to 2006. A time, you would think that they were on a downward trend, right? And even up in 2021, they still continue to shoot up.
I can see that surprised me, but I can also see that there were a lot of people that were struggling with like mental health and stuff. Yeah. And I can actually see how that maybe was a correlation during that time period.
And even then, like fatal crashes were happening throughout the day. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned several times that having this job has basically saved you. What would you say, like overall, how do you feel like it saved you?
It helped me find my voice. I would say that it taught me, even though I taught everybody to storytell, their stories taught me to tell my story. And, it's learning how to, like, I'll be honest, I rarely share this story publicly. Obviously, the people close to me know, but this is kind of like honestly really the first time, besides the other stories, I kind of danced around it,
Right.
if you noticed. And so here's like kind of the first time I really kind of dig into it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're my first.
Oh, that's so sweet. No, I mean, I read, I forgot what the name of the website was. And then there was something that you shared. I don't know if you had 2 articles, right?
There's a few.
Or a few.
Yeah.
I read 2 of them. And then your letter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I was just like, I mean this in the best way. I was like, I actually want more. Like, I feel like I need to know more of these details of like what happened.
Yeah. And I plan to. So when my director said, I want a book, I'm writing that book. I did get lost in the process of it because I had to tap into the memories, and which was heartbreaking for me, and just kind of reliving. And I didn't realize there was grief still there that I had to process. And I was like, okay, I got to make a call to my therapist again, and, you can only talk to a certain few because not everybody's comfortable talking about grief.
True.
And it's only because people want the best for you. And that's not a problem at all. But there's only a select few you can really share. But you got to ask permission because you can't emotionally dump on anybody.
True.
So I am writing that book because I do want to inspire those. And, it's about love, self-love for yourself. And so throughout that process, my friends, Kristen especially, got everyone together for a special Christmas present. And that's when they got me a writing class at UCLA Extension, because I was having imposter syndrome because I'm not a writer.
I was going to ask you about imposter syndrome.
Oh God, it was bad. It was bad.
For the reason that I feel like I have that sometimes too. Mm-hmm. And I love that you're sharing this whole side of you, that you were initially a quiet person. You were, you weren't confident, and like, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And it's like refreshing to hear that sometimes. Not that I hate on it, but I'm just like, okay, you were just like gifted and confident, and like you did so well in school and this and that. But
no, it took a long time to get here, and there's still things that I could work on and help for myself. And that's the fun part of this journey, that you're always I love learning.
It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah. And so, I still kind of get a little shy about some things, but, when I feel strongly about something, I do speak up. And so it's been a fun journey. I connected with a friend of mine who he's a writer director. He's like, I want to do more with this, but you have to finish your manuscript. And he's my accountability friend, where it's like, okay, I'll get this, and we would go back and forth and, trying to keep me on the straight lace. And then when the other one passed away, I kind of fell off that wagon for a minute. But and so it's still in the process, and I would say it's even still writing itself. But in between that, my dad was diagnosed with dementia this past year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And thank you. And so I did have a children's book that was always there, that story, because it happened when I was a little girl. Mm. And I even made a Christmas card out of it, some years back. And I always had this story. I'm like, I want to tell this story. And this is kind of where the imposter syndrome, where, can I do it? But then he would remind me, you're a storyteller. Oh, I'm a storyteller. Yeah, I am. And so that's kind of what helped me kind of break out of that shell. That's right. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories even during the day when I share my victim stories, or, and that's how I'm able to kind of paint that picture. I've had people it's like I could smell the air the way you describe everything. And so, so I'm like, okay. And so that was always there. And then, when my dad got that diagnosis, and it's just kind of, I was going back and forth, and I was like, no, I had my ending, but I wasn't satisfied with my ending. And then it turned into a magical realism tale where it kind of took it to another level. And I have so many ideas for it that will happen. And the primary part, it's like, this is kind of like the closest fruit to grab at the moment, that I can ensure I want to get this in my dad's hand. And as his memory slips away, I want him to have this be available to him.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, that part. And that too has been a process. I think that this past year, as those elements started coming together, I met an amazing, she's an international muralist. I'm sure people know her as La Morena, Lucinda Hinojos. And she actually designed the Super Bowl ticket last year. And
oh yeah, you sent me the link of that.
Yeah, so she, her and I connected this last year, and we've been talking when we get together, and I presented the idea to her, and she's like, I'm down. And I was like, great.
So
I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to do it.
That's the best, though.
We're going to make it happen. And she's
It's
like,
the best when somebody's just like, I'm down. Like,
yeah, it's like she gets my vision. She understands my story, and I understand her. And that, I think that was important for us to gel. And I want to be able to add those Easter eggs to those illustrations that represent both of us.
Right.
Because, I want her so much a part of this as my family's a part of it.
And I think that's important too about like a children's story.
Yeah.
Children are they're smarter than a lot of adults think, and they can grasp things if we just like, simplify it.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes in life, I feel like our problems, we complicate things. And we overcomplicate things, right?
We can go into a 10-minute explanation and it could just be in 5 seconds.
Right. And so I think that's important because like anybody could read a children's book. And, you're basically getting everybody in this whole world that is able to just read your book.
Yeah. And I really wanted to, it's the storyteller in me, and it's kind of like the event experience too. And so on top of that, it's like, oh, well, we can add this layer to it. And if we market it this way, we can do. So I'm pretty excited what's going to happen with that. I can't reveal too much about it yet, but
no worries.
But yeah, it's going to be a fun ride.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
Have you ever heard of the moth by any chance?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm not like I don't know like too much about it, but I one time I worked an event for this show called Moth, and I believe it's on NPR, and it's all storytelling. And I think that's something you should look into.
Okay, great.
People just like, they apply for it or they like send their request or something. And then it's a storytelling show. They usually do it like at a theater, and you kind of just show up, and it's like an audience full of people, and you're just sharing your story. It doesn't have to be funny. Some of them are sad. Some of them can be funny. Yeah. But it's just storytelling.
I love it.
I think you should look into it.
Yeah, I love it. That sounds great.
That was it was a really cool event to like just listen to. Just people having conversations and sharing stories. It's like really cool.
Yeah. I think I think that's the best part too, now that I feel so confident and feeling open to share. Yeah. That feeling everyone's response and how they're championing you, throughout the process. And a couple years ago, I started setting out word intentions. My New Year is my birthday. And so a couple years ago, it was like, okay, my birthday word is social. And so I went with social, and I was like, well, that means I need to get myself out there. Okay. I need to socialize a little bit more.
Do you just pick these words, or?
Yeah, I picked them for myself. Okay. So social was the word, because I feel like, intentions, your words are powerful. And this is something I learned from Wordiful from Liz Hernandez. And so I took that, and I was like, okay, getting myself go out there. Unfortunately, one part of that was the pandemic. But I was still able to get myself where I was able to kind of reconnect to a community, in the entertainment community that I was once involved. And so I was welcomed back with open arms. And so it was a blessing to come back and reconnect with everyone. And then from there, I'm able to meet people. And this is where I met Liliana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I met Liliana there through this process. And it was one of those like, all right, you're my sister for life.
Oh, that's so cool. I know. That's why, like, I don't want to just jump into my conversations, actually. But I think community is important. Yes. I think storytelling is important. Mm-hmm. And how and why is community important to you?
Oh, I think it is definitely so needed. It is so important. Once upon a time, I didn't feel that, even when I first started the entertainment industry, because being brown skin in a world of executives and behind the scenes, I wasn't treated right.
Right.
I wasn't treated right. And I worked long hours for pennies. I remember somebody gave me their clothes that they had from their catalogs, leftovers. Here, you can have that and you could sell it as your bonus. Yeah.
That industry is like wild. And people still do that, right? Like a lot of people are doing part-time jobs and working in Starbucks and like trying to be in the entertainment industry. It's like,
I needed a 401k. I needed insurance.
Like there's no time for that. Excuse me. I need benefits.
Yeah. I need my benefits. It literally was such a wild time. And back then I feel like people did not support you. You did have a group of, who, you've grown with through the years that I'm so proud to say I have that dynamic of individuals who are just these fierce, phenomenal women and men. But there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't a community back then that I could go to for help or, to any type of mentorship. I didn't have anyone to really develop me. Like I was kind of lost.
Yeah. I can relate, honestly.
Yeah, I was lost.
And I remember being in college and being like, I just wish somebody would like mentor me. I wish somebody would be willing to mentor me or offer it to me. And I had a hard time asking for things. I don't like asking for things because I've been really independent a lot of my life and just having to figure things out on my own. So I never liked asking people for things. I didn't like to burden people. I never felt like I was in the right place. I always felt like I just wasn't worthy of being in this space, of even being in college.
I was right there with you. Yeah. That's exactly how I felt for so many years. But we have to ask questions. We have to speak up because if not, we're never going to know.
Exactly.
Recently I was having a conversation with somebody where they were like, well, I don't want to ask you because I feel like, you're busy. It's like, look, ask me and I will tell you if it's within my bandwidth. If it's not, I will help you figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
But ask me the question.
Yeah.
Speak up.
Honestly, this podcast has gotten me to push myself out of my comfort zone. I was also shy to ask you. I was like, I'm just going to shoot my shot and like see what she says. Like,
oh my gosh. I was like, oh my God, me. I was so honored.
But yeah, like I just keep trying to shoot my shot with people and I've been really blessed and lucky.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it because if they tell you no, then they tell you no and you ask. That was it. And that's the one thing I've learned. It's like, let them tell me no and I'll find another way.
Right. Don't take it personally.
Yeah. No. Right. And you can't take things, business is business. You can't take things personal.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about you guys' mixers, you and Liliana.
Yeah.
When did you guys start those mixers? And can you explain what the mixers are and everything?
So we're learning, to be honest. So what happened is last year we went out and we had a blast, right? And so we said, yeah, let's go out again, right before the new year. Let's celebrate. Let's, and they were like, well, why don't we just kind of take it to a tone of, let's set our intention for 2024 and okay, just a few of us. Yeah, let's just do a few of us. Okay, yeah. Well, you've met Liliana. You've met her network. And literally it was just one of those like, okay, let's invite our closest, professionals and let's get together. That first time we got together, there was like 27 people. And this is with like 48 hours notice. And we're like, oh, wow. I told her, I think we have something here. And so we're like, okay, let's do it again. And, again, we want to, Liliana is, I call her the mayor of LA. She is my.
You know what? She walks like she is too.
Yes.
she looks like it. Just her whole vibe. Is
yes.
very,
like everyone needs to take a Liliana course. I'm going to make her do a women empowerment course. She doesn't know that yet. Guess what, Liliana? But no, she is well established in the political world for so many years. And then she's a cultural affairs director for the Los Angeles Chargers. She's a Los Angeles city commissioner, and she is the president of Placita Olvera. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's kind of a badass. Every time she talks about Placita, I'm like, Madam President.
Yes.
So we wanted to, her intention was to highlight the beautiful Placita Olvera, to kind of bring life back to it, create awareness and create community there. And to highlight the restaurants there, the vendors, you know, there's so many ideas that are still, going on in our heads that, okay, let's do this again in January. And so when we did it in January, first we were going to just do women, and then we kind of, she's mixed it up a bit, and where it's like, oh yeah, something's here. We got something. And so, yeah, the thing is to bring community together, to elevate voices. We have to be there to support each other. And so there's more that are coming. And, well, what that actual mission is, we haven't put that to words yet, but we just want to bring the love together.
I think you guys are onto something.
Yeah.
Entirely. This is what people want. And I think it shows. I've only been to one, but I think everyone was so excited to be there.
Yes. No, it really was such a beautiful moment. It's just the energy. And that's the one thing that we have to be very protective of, is our energy and who we invite around us. Because we can't just invite anybody. Right. You really have to be intentional on who you want to be present with you. That's something that I've had to also learn through the years, because I would gravitate to people. But again, it was that energy at that time wasn't the best. And so I would select individuals who were not the best influencers around me. And as that began to change, and again, being intentional with what I want, then next thing you know, I started seeing that network grow.
And I think you mentioned it in your letter about the law of attraction.
Yes, I really believe that. So it's not what, it's literally what you believe, what you put out there, what you set.
Right.
And sometimes, and I'll be honest, sometimes I'm scared of like, oh, I have a very powerful mind. Like, okay, well, how's this going to go?
Yeah. Like, hopefully they understand.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll present an idea to my director, and she's like, what? All right, let's do it.
But I also think that when you're attracting the right people in your life, and you're attracting good people in your life, I think that means you're onto something.
Yeah.
And you're growing.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah. I feel it. I really do feel it. Your mind is so powerful, and
it is.
And
it's scary.
It is scary, but I see how it's benefited people. And I'm going to give you a quick little story. One of my childhood best friends passed away of cancer, but she was told she had 6 months, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going down that way." And honestly, it was the power of her mind.
Yeah,
it was mind over body. She kept herself alive for 3 years until she passed. And that was kind of like one of the biggest gifts that she left us with.
Yeah. That you can do it.
Yeah.
It's all about like your mental well-being and where your mind is.
No, it's literally like, it's so protective. And even for my loved ones, and, even as we're going through this new journey, even with my family, I still have to protect that energy too.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm there for them, but at the same time, like, hide right here for a minute.
Sometimes you need a break, because sometimes
I do need a break.
I see myself doing that. I'll just like isolate myself and be like, I need some time to be alone.
You have to, because it's like, from socializing, you need to have that, you need that alone time to energize yourself again. And sometimes, like, my friends are like, "Yoo-hoo, where are you?"
Yeah, your social battery is just like dying.
It's like, no, I'm right here. Leave me alone. They're like, well, come with us. Can I be alone in my house, please? I want to play with my plants.
Yeah. And I also enjoy being alone.
I do too.
That's a problem of mine.
Well, yeah, I think. Well, yeah, for me too. And yeah, I think because too, I was with that age gap with my sister, I felt like very isolated, very alone. I think that's where my creative imagination was born too. But, through the years and through loss, there was moments it was important for me to isolate myself. Again, it's like, I didn't want anyone to see my tears. I didn't want to see anyone to see I had weakness.
Right.
I didn't want anybody, and it took a while. I still kind of struggle with it to this day, and still I'm able to share. I'm like, okay, I'm using my words. I'm being intentional. Yes, I do cry. Somebody's like, "Oh my God, you cried." I'm like, shut up. I guess I did. Okay.
I think I think you're also very protective of yourself, which is important.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like you didn't want people to see your weakness. And that I feel like when somebody says that, that means they've dealt through a lot of things on their own.
Yeah.
And they haven't had anybody to really lean on or rely on too much.
Yeah.
And a lot of things they've kind of had to just bring themselves up.
Yeah, no, it's true. And you know, I think I shared with you earlier with Mr. Wonderful. I feel protected with him. And so it's rare that I feel protected by certain people. And so that protection is very important for me. And I think because I became the protector for everybody, that I didn't trust anybody to protect me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know. I use that a lot back and forth, but yeah.
So it's been an hour. We can like trickle down to closing out. Do you have any advice for people that might relate to your story or like have a similar experience to you? Any advice?
Well, you know, it's never fear your story. You know, it's kind of like come from a point of love. You know, it's my birthday year. My birthday word this year was love.
When's your birthday?
October 29th.
Okay. So you're a Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Okay. I'm a Scorpio Sag.
When's your birthday?
November 22nd.
We're right there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to come from a place of love in everything you do and act. And that's very important for me right now. You know, always, you know, it's okay to cry. It's okay to, you know, and it's okay to have your armor. It's okay. It's okay at the end of the day, but make sure you're being your authentic self. Because I think that's the part we get so caught up with social media and what perfection is, which is really being altered on the back end. And, you know, you need to be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
It's so important.
And I don't know if we got this in the recording, but you had mentioned in the studio that you didn't proof or like you didn't correct the errors in your letter.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain why?
So back when I first originally wrote it, it was in its raw form. And it's what that moment represented in my life. And I feel like if I go back and clean it up, because like, oh, there's some grammar errors, there's some this, I feel like it's going to change the tone. And I don't want that. Like, that's where I was at that moment in my life with and how I felt. And I had this new charge of energy, and it was my story, my life, my terms.
I really like that you said that. Most people would clean it up to be polished and perfect. And I like that you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
And I like that you mentioned that and that you're aware of it, because it's like I said earlier, like, I think it's like a metaphor for like accepting your story as is.
Yeah.
It's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. We're never going to be perfect. We all have flaws, but it's being comfortable in your skin. Like I said, being your authentic self, being, when it comes to our stories, and even like that story, for example, like back then you know, as I went through, you know, I took courses in writing and to storytell. And when I go back, I'm like, oh my God, I could have done this. And I was like, no, I'm going to leave it alone, because that's the Georgina that came out of her darkness.
Yeah.
This is the first part of her light. And that was the beacon that started everything. And so I'm going to leave her true to herself.
That's so inspiring. I love it.
Thank you.
I love your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's such an honor. Thank you.
This was so fun. I'm glad I read all the pieces that you had, and then you just tied everything together right now. Like,
good. I'm glad.
I'm sure there's obviously more, and I still want more from your story, but like you kind of like closed some ends for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you know, again, I'm a storyteller. You know, not the writer. I'm the storyteller.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do and portray and want to inspire everyone around everyone has a story. Let's get them shared.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I'm about especially Latino voices to be shared in entertainment. And I want to see us out there. I want to champion everyone. And so that's why it's so important. And that's why even for Smiling for Santa, there's going to be a storytelling element that I'm excited for.
That's awesome. Honestly. And I love that you said that right now, because I also relate. I have never seen myself as a kid. Like, I had never seen myself in the entertainment industry, like in movies, TV shows. Like, it's really rare, you know?
Yeah.
And we're always getting played by somebody else that's not even Latino.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't even relate to that.
Yeah.
I never saw myself there, so I didn't even bother to even want to be in the entertainment business because I didn't feel like I could anyway.
Well, we've come a long way, but there's still so much work to do.
A lot.
And, I think with even voices like you and people who listen here today, you got a voice. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, it's ironic that I'm doing a podcast now, and like I used to be really shy when I was little, but I think this is like just my growing pains right now.
Well, the one thing I will always say is always go for one more. And it's something that first originated a few years back with, we work with such heavy topics, at my job.
Right.
And I had a lot of loss. Even within a year time, there were so many losses that it came to me where it's like, I went for one more trip. And even when we said goodbye, my friend, was waving goodbye for me. I visited him in Palm Springs. He's like, I love you. And I was like, I ran up to him, give him one more hug and one more I love you. And that was the last time I saw him because then he passed right after. And so I always encourage, go for one more. Even if you're going to the gym, go for that one more set. Go for that one extra minute.
Yeah.
Go for that one extra hour to help you with your work. That one more writing session. That one more, whatever it is, that one more is.
That's good advice.
Even if it's a hug, an extra I love you, or an extra kiss. One more. Because tomorrow's not promised.
Right.
An hour from now is not promised. Like things can happen. And so live in the moment, be present.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity for that one more, do it.
Thank you so much for this inspiring story, Georgina.
Thank you.
Where can we find you?
Where am I? Oh,
websites, Instagram,
so
social medias.
I do have a website, GeorginaAvilez.com. I'm on Instagram. What am I? I forgot. I am Georgina Avilez on Instagram. I'm like, what the heck am I?
I'll leave tags for you too.
Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you. Because I'm trying to remember. Because I accidentally changed it and I was like, oh, wait. And on LinkedIn, Georgina Avilez. Okay.
And you want to share any of your articles that you're on?
Yeah, you can Google. They're on my link. They're on my Instagram link tree for Bold Journey, Shout Out LA, and Voyage. I think those were it.
Yeah. And then any projects, events coming up?
Well, we are working with those mixers, definitely with Liliana. So, if you guys find me, and I can share a little bit about what's going on one-on-one.
Mixers are last Thursdays of the month?
Yes, last Thursdays of the month in Placita Olvera, but it's by invitation only. So, but we do need to, we do vet everybody that goes in.
Okay.
And the M.A.D.D events, we do program outreach, which, we like to focus on underage drinking prevention. And I'm coming back with Illuminate M.A.D.D California at the end of the year. That was a very proud project of mine. Thanks to a friend of mine, he helped me light up City Hall. And also the 6th Street Bridge and cool. LAX pylons. I was like, well, since we're doing that, can we light up more things across California? And so we got to light up, through, what my phenomenal staff behind the scenes. We lit up like other law enforcement stations, DA's offices, courthouses. Families participated in this moment of unity to remember our loved ones who we've lost due to 100% crime. So, and of course, right now, working on Smiling for Santa.
Yay. All right. So we'll close out here. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I hope this wasn't too hard or bad.
No, this was great. Okay, cool. I said, you were my first to share about Mr. Wonderful because I've never shared out loud publicly about it, even though I still have to protect names, to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
But,
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.